A new warning: what experts are saying about social media use in children. We'll share the mind-bending stats on a New Orleans student's college application process. And fighting trans hate with love. I talk with a trans podcaster and higher education professional on celebrating queer joy in the face of anti-LGBTQ legislation. Hello and welcome to Advocate Today. I'm Aaron Dean. Thanks for joining me. We begin today with a new study from Gallup that states most Black and Hispanic adults are very worried about tainted water. The data shows that 76% of Black and 70% of Hispanic Americans worry a great deal about water pollution. This is compared to 48% of white Americans. In 2019, the EPA found that race was related to ineffective enforcement of federal drinking water laws. Recent examples of water crises include Flint, Michigan, Newark, New Jersey, and Jackson, Mississippi. The probe against Justice Clarence Thomas continues as state Democrats seek a list of gifts that he received from Harlan Crow, but Crow is refusing to cooperate. At issue are luxury trips and a favorable private real estate deal Thomas received from Crow. Thomas never reported the dealings. Financial Committee Democrats are looking into whether those perks violated U.S. tax law. Crow's attorney said that the probe appears to be for a broader campaign against Thomas and not for legislative purposes. Senate Democrats want information on all gifts and payments and itemized list of transactions and trips. Well, social media can be a messy landscape, and the American Psychological Association is saying that teens need training before they start using platforms. The recommendation for instruction in social media literacy and psychological development was among 10 recommendations from the APA. Other guidance included tailoring usage to the children's age. There are also recommendations for improving limitations on content that promotes self-harm and limitations to ensure kids get enough sleep. U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy says that kids under 14 should not use social media altogether. Trans visibility during this time of ramped up anti-LGBTQ attacks can help move the needle toward a place of love and acceptance. And that's the mission of higher education professional and podcaster Chloe Corcoran. She might be the first out trans woman in her field as an alumni director, and she is also on the Being Trans podcast that features relatable moments with powerful messages. I spoke with Chloe about her experience and her mission. Hello, Chloe Corcoran, the host of Being Trans podcast, and you're also a higher ed professional at Palo Alto University, right?
That's correct.
All right. Thanks for joining us today. We're so happy to have you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Good. Well, let's just jump right on into it. I want to begin by asking a little bit about your background and what exactly led you to starting this particular podcast.
So the podcast was an interesting experience. I moved out to Los Angeles and I saw in a Facebook group, well, there's going to be a podcast and it's about trans people in LA. And I thought to myself, I'm trans. I live in LA. I've got to audition. So I sent in a reel and went through multiple casting rounds and eventually was asked to be a subject in this podcast. And they followed me and some other trans people around for 4 to 5 months. And it was quite an experience.
Oh, wow. That sounds really cool. And so with this podcast, you're diving into some really important topics and subject matters that relate to some people. What can listeners expect to gather from your podcast when they tune in?
Familiarity, I think, is the big one, in that I am a lot of times the first trans person other people have met. And I hear from a lot of them, well, I want to be supportive. I don't know what to say. I just don't want to say the wrong thing. And this allows people to come at it in a passive way where they can learn about trans lives and how very similar they are, but also a little bit different too. And, for some comedic side effect, you can listen to me be really awkward on a blind date. So yes, they did record that.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to tune in. I want to hear that specific episode. So, we're seeing a lot of anti-LGBTQ bills and rhetoric that is happening around this country. What does it mean for you to celebrate queer life and joy during this time, and how can others do the same?
So for me, celebrating queer joy is liberating. It's a way to fight back everything that's going on in the world pertaining to LGBTQ plus people, especially in certain states, is very difficult right now. But you know what else is very difficult? Transitioning, getting through, surviving. And so many of us have done that and are doing that. And I see people getting small wins and big wins all the time. And I think it's important to take time to celebrate those. You know what? You went out to get a cup of coffee as your authentic self for the first time. That's a huge win because I know how scary that is. Don't let anybody discount any of your wins because you deserve them and you've earned them.
So definitely it's all about just taking those moments and just celebrating them no matter if they're big or if they're small, right?
Absolutely. So there was a time, BC, as my brother calls it, before Chloe, where I didn't celebrate anything. Nothing was big. And now I'm like, it's Tuesday. All right, let's go for it. Of course, there are heavier times than others, but finding small joys is what can really be sustaining for a lot of us.
And Pride Month is right around the corner, and you'll be receiving some big honors in Los Angeles and New York. Can you tell our viewers what exactly that is?
So our show, Being Trans, recently won some Webby Awards, which was very cool. So we won an award for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also innovation and experimentation in podcasts through our production company, Lemonada Media, which was absolutely fantastic to work with. We've had so many cool things happen. I was with the rest of the cast on a billboard in Times Square. I did go see it. I am that girl. And one of the most thrilling moments of that was I got to share it with my mom. She came down with me for it. And that was it was like, my mom's proud of me. And that meant a lot to me.
Oh, well, congratulations on that.
Thank
And
you.
also salute to your mom for being there to celebrate you with that big moment. So, before we let you go, where can people tune in and listen to this podcast?
Oh my gosh, anywhere you can find a podcast. I know that's so cliche, but Spotify, Amazon, Apple, we are all over the place.
Florida is a battleground regarding education and basic liberties, and now the state says that it's rejected more than a third of social studies textbooks submitted for approval. The Florida Department of Education says that social studies materials were rejected because they were, quote, inaccurate, or they were not aligned with state law. When submitted materials were initially reviewed, only 19 out of 101 were approved. Governor Ron DeSantis has been openly critical of teaching Americans racial history in the classroom because he says that it might indoctrinate students to, quote, hate the U.S. DeSantis recently tightened his grip on the state's Department of Education. And last up today, one high school senior is setting the record for total scholarship awards. The total, over $10 million. New Orleans native Dennis Barnes, who goes by Malik, announced that he will attend Cornell University in the fall. He plans on pursuing a dual degree in computer science and criminal justice. At just 16 years old, Barnes set the record for total scholarship awards. He was also accepted to 186 universities. Barnes spoke to the reason that he selected the upstate New York college.
I was looking for a school. I was looking for a school that would set me up the best. I was looking for a school with a quality education and where I think that I would fit in the best and be more comfortable. After taking into consideration all of my options, Cornell seemed to fit that description, and I'm looking forward to attending school. One thing I will say is I wouldn't necessarily do a dual degree as a bachelor, but I would like to pursue computer science for my bachelor and move on to law school. I say that because I know that um, dealing with computer science, that's a developing technology where you have intellectual property and NFTs. Those are things that are going to need lawyers, rules, and regulations and to be represented in court. So I would like to be a part of the development of that law and the technology of itself. So that's why I chose that combination.
Barnes already had a head start at Cornell, having earned 27 college credits in high school. We wish him the best as he starts this new journey. And that's all the time that we have for this Advocate today. We are streaming live and 24/7 on the Advocate channel. Visit us wherever you watch your content. I'm Aaron Dean, and we will see you next time.